Welcome to the Charity Security Forum, First Friday Forum, and we're aiming for 30 minutes of short, snappy, and absolutely to the point, eloquent discussion from Chris, which we know we're going to get.
Okie dokie. Having introduced me beautifully, I didn't actually put anything in this this slide because I knew you were going to say lots of lovely things about me. So we'll gloss over that because most people know me anyway. The whole point of this little chat is because CSF is or has been looking at the role of the smaller charities recently, and so this comes under a sort of general heading of keep it small. And so what the guys asked me to do really is to look at some of the effects of the pandemic and the way small charities have had to adopt and embrace the new norm. But of course, none of us actually know what that is. So what this chat is about is trying to get our heads around what the new norm is. So I've started from a point, and I've done this slightly in a different order to most talks, in that I thought, well, I'd provoke some thoughts first and then come up with an agenda for the session. The biggest issue that I can see is that charities, small charities, but actually it doesn't have to be small charities, they can be any size charities, they are businesses and they have to be business-like to be able to carry out and be effective. All of my life I've been working in aspects of IT, which is all about actually running businesses better, using IT to run businesses better. And to do that, you have to have what I called there successful and effective management. Management's got two components. We all know this, but you know, it's worth just sort of flattering you all because you do all know this. You need input in order to make decisions. On the basis of those decisions, you need to be able to control what you're doing and implement things. I mean, you know, granny sucking eggs, but this is absolutely fundamental to where we're going to get to in this little half an hour. I'm doing this from your perspective because you are managing, for argument's sake, a small charity, as I've said, well, any size really. So the agenda, therefore, is I'm going to be talking about managing a small charity in this wonderful thing we're calling the new norm, hybrid working from home era. Now, I think actually, again, personal view, I think that we're using those all in some kind of equivalence way. I think new norm and hybrid are probably the terms that people are liking because it's all about a mixture of going into the office, commuting, getting hot and sweaty, and or working from home the rest of the time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've now called an enforced drift into the new norm, and whether we planned for it or not. I think you all know the answer to that. And because we've drifted into this kind of new environment about control or management, you know, what are the implications for us for running the business with our people, for running the IT? How do we run an IT estate that we can't control? That I think is a huge issue. How do we secure an IT estate we have no control over? And particularly the stuff that we got no control over is probably being shared between our endpoint user, probably her hubby, the kids, the dog, and everybody else. So how do we get back control? And that's where I want to get to in about 20 minutes time. So let's crack on. Just a sort of, that was a little, I thought, that sounds all doom and gloom, but I'm hoping it's not all doom and gloom. But as we go through this, there is a shed load of doom and gloom. So your small charity, just to paint a scenario, like most, you are probably, if you're running it, you're the CEO, the CIO, the CTO, the MD, the chair of the board, the chair of the trustees, the chair of whatever. But Alice is wonderful. She's your number two. She lives in Surrey with her hubby, 2 kids, 2 labs, and working from home is absolutely what she wants to do. She doesn't want to come into town every day. There's probably a financial controller, and for I was just trying to see whether one of the my invitees is on here, because she would have been the person that would recognise this. And you've got a core team. Some of them, perhaps none of them, but some of them may be full-time paid, some are part-time paid, all the rest are full or part-time volunteers. That is the structure of most small charities. Having said that, the pandemic came up and we got locked down and we were in deep dicky doo-doos. And the bottom line is that the lockdown enforced, in most cases, closure of the charity shops, the charity offices, what have you. So it enforced your people working from home. So that's great, isn't it? And you, of course, were in a position to be able to manage this drift into the new norm, working from home, weren't you? No, you weren't. You've already lost control. So there has been this sway towards more flexible working. Partly, people are liking not having to commute. Home life balance is great. Don't have to worry about school holidays. So you and your people can work as effectively from home as they can in the office. If this was interactive, we'd be having more interactive. We'd be having a huge debate about this, because I know everybody disagrees that actually working in a group works so much better than people sitting at home on their own in their home office, or maybe the kitchen table. So the question then to you is, now you are the manager of this, do you know what all your people are doing? And I slapped this one in about 10 minutes ago. The Prospect Union boss, a guy called Andrew Pakes, beautifully quoted in the Metro today that for millions of people, working from home has felt more like sleeping in the office. Now, I haven't got a clue where he got that from, but it kind of sums it up really for me. In some way, it just struck a chord. So our hybrid working scenario is now becoming much more socially accepted, and becoming the new norm. We have to trust people. We have to trust our people massively that they're actually doing what they're telling us they're doing, and they really actually are being productive. From the point of view of CSF and most charities, we have to ask the question how we're allowing all our people at home access to our corporate information systems, but how can we ensure that that access is assured? I've worked with quite a lot of charities where the people that you're helping, the people that are coming to the charity because they've got issues. And some of those issues are really quite sensitive, might be to do with health, might be to do with finance, might be to do with all sorts of stuff. So there's all sorts of different levels of sensitivity of information that you hold on your basic information systems. So the question to you is, do you have proper, controlled identity and authority management in place? And even if you have got some, if you've gone to something like Entrust, or to one of the many companies that provide single log-on systems and what have you, how can you ensure that Alice, your endpoint person, is actually doing what she's supposed to be doing? And, you know, how can you find out? How can you police it? I mean, and I think this is a really, really big issue. So the answer to those questions is basically no. Simples. So you've got a problem. You're managing a business that you've got no control over. So therefore, by definition, you're not managing the business. But I say it's not all doom and gloom. You're not the only one that's not managing your business. I spotted one yesterday. In fact, it was the day before yesterday, because as Martin reported, we actually had a little run through of this, but it must have been on Wednesday. Bloomberg said huge numbers of employees are now quitting rather than giving up their freedom of working from home. Now, what that means to me is they're now using this as a lever. They love the idea of working from home, legally and professionally, and they've tasted it. And so they're saying, well, you know, you can't demand we come back to work because this is how we want to work. Apple had a big announcement this morning that said that they're giving their people 4 months to come back to work. Who knows whether that will actually ever happen sensibly, because they may not have the control over their people enough to be able to dictate it. On the other hand, I know loads and loads of people who just can't wait to get out of the house and go back to work properly, because they're coming out of the house environment and back into the work environment where they feel a bit more comfortable. And I was also amused by a call I was on last week where Rick McBee from Riverbed was talking about the IT estate and your people estate, and saying something along the lines of the greatly extended data perimeter expands the risk boundary exponentially. I think I know, well, I know what all those words mean, and I think I know what they mean in that order. But I think it's important as an input to this discussion about the fact that we have basically lost control as we have gone into this new environment. We've expanded. So to go on, I know CSF is basically is very much about the technology of security and the policies and procedures and the way we talk about it. But again, I think a huge amount of this is about the fact when people are in the office 9 to 5, 5 days a week, we have a certain control over them, their lifestyle, what they do at lunchtime, and so on. The fact that they're working from home, far greater HR issues. And it just sort of made me think a lot about those basic HR policies like join, review, appraise, terminate, leave processes. For those who know about these things, it's obvious, but when you join the company, you get the joining pack, you have reviews, you have appraisals, and then at some point you leave that job, and all the stuff they gave you at the beginning and all the stuff you've accrued while you've been there, you have to give back. But if we're working from home and we don't have control over all of that, then how do we manage giving all the stuff back that we don't own and things like that? And I'm thinking really that the security implications of that are horrible, particularly when you've given people credentials to get access to the systems. So again, I think it was early this week, I listened to a talk from Microsoft about Windows Virtual Desktop. It controls everything. It is, because it does all your identity management, it does all your authorization controls, it does everything, and it controls the dog. But unfortunately, don't work for Alice because she's on a Mac. So we go on. Another thing that come up recently is, of course, we're expecting people, when we work in the office, we go to a chat in the over the coffee machine. We stand up with whiteboards and we natter and we come up with ideas, and then we say, oh, okay, you do this bit, I'll do this bit, and we can put all these things together. And so let's say, for example, Office 365 is the tool for collaborative working. Sorry, guys, it isn't. People are the tool for collaborative working, because there's different versions of 365 working on different platforms. Some people have done their upgrades properly. Some people won't have done. Lots and lots of stuff will be woefully out of date. The key thing, and I thank Martin for this when we were chatting yesterday, we never trained our people to work collaboratively in the office because it was natural. Again, the coffee room, the whiteboard, and whatever, however they did it, however we all did it, it was natural. But in the new norm, in our hybrid situation, we've got to actually formalize how we do this, how we work on documents, how we work on presentations, how we develop stuff. I know some of the people I'm working with are extremely good at this, and some others are, using my lovely word, they're woeful. They are woefully bad at it. But I bet the bottom line is that as you, the manager of your charity, have not actually set out and successfully delivered training to all of your staff and all the volunteers who didn't need to take part in the training anyway, about how they're going to do all this stuff in a collaborative, in out of the office kind of environment. So, slightly facetious comment, I am surprised that you haven't done this. Well, no, I'm not. So you used to have a bunch of people that you managed. You had a nice IT estate that you managed. Well, hopefully you managed. It was in-house, and somebody, you probably had an IT tech, or somebody who, or you had a small organization that came in and looked after your IT for you, doing your patches, upgrading your virus stuff, and all that kind of stuff. Now you haven't got that. You've got some of it in-house. You might well have not bothered with the bunch of people that used to do it, because they couldn't come into your office anyway, because they weren't allowed to. You've extended your boundaries enormously, and so therefore you've got a mishmash of IT estate you don't own, and you've got no control over it. Did I say doom and gloom? Yes. So that endpoint computer that Alice, who is your most famous and valuable trusted person, and she's working for your charity on arranging hospital visits for your clients. But of course, it's the only computer at home, and she's sharing it with hubby Greg, who's also working from home, and he works for a drug company that pays absolute fortunes for patient information. You get where I'm going for this. You've got no control. You've got absolutely no control over whether Greg can see what Alice is doing, or what she left in an open letter on her trusted Mac. You can't control it unless you can see what's going on. And I think one of the big things I'm postulating is that having a viable security posture demands visibility, and we can't at the moment demand visibility, because and we start getting into human rights and all sorts of daft things. So it gets worse and worse. Right. I worked with Brian on, in one particular larger charity, huge business, and they were able to provide company resources, and all the policies and everything was done by enforced in-house policies. Small charities, which is what we're concentrating on, just can't afford that, and we have to rely on all our people providing their own resources. Again, we've got no control. Oh yeah, yet again, we've got no control. The only thing we can do is we can ask people to be sensible. We have to trust them, but we can't dictate it. Now, I kept looking up this word policeable. I think it's almost a new word now. But the bottom line is, whatever policy you come up with, if you can't police it, you haven't got any control. Coming to the conclusion of this, we must be able to fix this. So the answer is, there isn't one at the moment, because I can't see one. But there must be, because we are bright, intelligent, clever people who, and the whole reason for being here and having this kind of chat is that there must be an answer. So to sort of conclude, the question is that, I've only just touched on some of the huge issues that we're in at the moment. The question therefore comes out of that: is there an industry desire to actually tackle this? It is clear now, to my mind, that there is a fine line between control and trust. Hybrid working, the new norm, is much more about trust than we ever used to have when we had total control. So somewhere we're moving the sliding scale between control and trust somewhere. I don't know where those dividing lines are, but between us, I think we've really got to debate that. So this is the magic word, it is the debate. I don't really see anybody debating this whole from people to technology to control, estate, trust issue. I don't see one place at the moment where that's going to happen, which is why I'm talking to you, because CSF is an obvious place because of the interest in security and control and trust and what have you. Great start point. For me, I've been a member of the BCS since 1980-ish. It is so broad, so diverse, and there's so many things. It doesn't seem at the moment to have any major intent to push this. This is not a green issue, and there's a lot of green stuff going on. Obviously, NTSC, GCHQ are bodies involved with tackling this, but this is, I think, I just have a feeling this is too big an issue for them. And on the other hand, if you go the next step up to central government or to a select committee, or people, maybe somebody in the BCS delivering an independent report to a select committee or whatever, I have no idea what the right way of doing this is. So this is less a conclusion, and it's even more of a question than I started out with. I don't know where to go from here. And our 10 minutes of discussion, really, I would hope, would be you guys all debating and giving me some great answers to this. Thank you, guys.
Chris, that's absolutely fabulous. Thanks ever so much for posing all those questions and highlighting all those problems. We have, as you say, great spot on timing. So we've got just in 10 minutes to throw some questions around. And if I may, I'd just like to start with one for you, because it seems to me that one of the issues that's always been an issue, not just during the pandemic, but the whole question of cybersecurity awareness. When people were in the office, it was relatively straightforward to perhaps go and have a chat with the information security officer, to have a chat with, if you had one, to go and have a chat with your colleagues, to say, hey, hang on a minute, there's something doesn't look right, or am I doing this right, or is this a risky thing to do? Do you think over the past 12, 15 months that information security awareness has increased or decreased?
Brilliant question, Martin. I think when we had control, we could enforce awareness. We could run regular training courses. We could get people in the room and just talk about it. We could do, and we probably did weekly, monthly newsletters and what have you. But the bottom line, the IT techs did all the virus updates for us on our in-house systems and whatever. I think the problem that you've highlighted very well is that Alice, who is lovingly looking after Greg and the kids and whatever, actually isn't very interested in that stuff. It's not, it's not what she does for a living. What she does is help people arrange trips to hospitals. So we have the huge problem of how we mandate that Alice should start to become interested in stuff that she's not currently interested in. Does that make any sense? So I think the answer to your question is, I think it's far worse.
Yes, it's just doom and gloom, Chris, isn't it? We're all doomed. I think it's a fascinating point, and it's certainly something that I have been discussing with other folks. But perhaps do you think it's more of an issue in charities, in smaller charities that may be reliant on volunteers, for example, because to try and get that awareness, and as you said, training courses, perhaps we are talking training as well as education. I don't know your thoughts on that, but if anybody else has got any views, then do chip in, and now's the time to unmute and join in the conversation. But you touched briefly on volunteers. What's your thoughts on that, Chris?
Saab has got his hand up. I'm interested in what he's got to say.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to agree, and thanks for that. I think that's a really good presentation. And Martin, that was similar to the question I was going to ask, because in many cases, there's not enough awareness to ask these questions. So if the awareness to ask these questions isn't there, where do we start? And not only where do we start, I was thinking there's two levels. There is that level of trying to do awareness, but if that awareness isn't in place and it takes 6 months, 12 months to bring that awareness in place, that's 12 months before they do anything. So if it's 12 months before these charities are doing something, what's supposed to happen in those 12 months? They're just left to the open?
Yeah, I think to answer both that and Martin's point, poor old Alice, and this is just straight scenario stuff, but poor old Alice hasn't really got the desire to do this stuff. So we can send her a weekly newsletter that says, Alice, these are the latest risks. This is our assessment of them. This is what you've got to be aware of when it comes to phishing, when it comes to this and that. But if she's not interested, we have no control. We can't insist that she gets interested.
You're right.
And that's where I see the black hole.
Yeah, and she didn't start working with a charity to learn cybersecurity. That's not what she's going to work for. Working for a charity. It's a public sector. So, and I totally agree. I think nobody gets into any role thinking that they're going to have to do loads of cybersecurity. The only people I always say interested in cybersecurity are cybersecurity people, and there's no reason why anyone else theoretically should be.
Totally agree. People that do charitable works do it because they want to do charitable works, not because they want to do cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question then, Martin?
Yeah, thanks for those observations, stuff. Really good. I'm just keeping my eye on time because I think we've basically pulled that together into quite a wonderful presentation, which we're going to put together and make available to the rest of the Charity Security Forum members who weren't able to join us today. We'll put that on the CSF YouTube channel. So I'm just going to formally say thanks very much for doing that, Chris. It's great, and thank you for your continued and valued support of the Charity Security Forum. I'm going to close this part of the meeting, and then we'll reopen on the same link in a couple of minutes. So if you guys, you want to get yourself a quick cuppa and join us back on this channel in a couple of minutes time, we'll continue the discussion. And I know that Chris has got lots more thoughts to share with you. So thanks very much. Thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next time.